Today we're going to be talking from the book of Genesis. And yeah, Genesis chapter 8, yes, again. Yes. We kind of just read through the end part of Genesis 8 last week, because there was a timely message concerning Teshuvah that I wanted to bring across that God put on my heart to present to you all. And so I wanted to go back and do the end part of chapter 8, this due diligence. It's one of the things that Yah had put on my heart to actually do, I hadn't done because I figured I'd wait till now. And that was, concerning the days that they were on the ark. And that sort of thing. And it brought about some really interesting stuff. So that being said, let's jump right here. I'm gonna leave it right there. We left off at Genesis 8:12, so we're gonna pick it up today with Genesis 8:13. And let me have my first reader read Genesis 8:13.
And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry.
And if you don't mind, read Genesis 7:11 as well.
In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of the heaven were opened.
Thank you. Now, what we have here is the day, when the waters was dried up, as well as the day when the waters, begin to fall upon the earth or accumulate upon the earth. You should notice, something concerning these 2 days, and that is that they're approximately almost 1 year apart. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. They're approximately 1 year apart, a little over a year, right? But what's even more interesting is the fact that we're given everything we need to calculate just how long that particular year was. One might ask, what does it matter how long the year was? Well, it matters a great deal. It matters a great deal when you factor in some things. In nature, there's only so many calendars that you can actually go by. Okay? There's a solar calendar, there's a lunar calendar, and there's a solar lunar calendar. These are the only calendars in which really exist in nature, per se, with the celestial markers, if you would. So we're going to get into this. We're told that the flood began in the second month on the 17th day, or to put it another way, the flood began on the 46th or 47th day of the year. And the reason I say the 46th or 47th day of the year is simply because a month can be 29 or 30 days in length in nature. Now, I know many of you are familiar with and used to the Gregorian calendar, where there can be a 28-day month or a 31-day month. But in Yah's calendars, that those calendars based upon nature, there can never be a 28-day month. The monthly cycle, we get our word month from the word moon, and the cycle of the moon is 29.5 days. So you can have either a 29-day month, or you can have a 30-day month. You cannot have a 28-day month. You cannot have a 31-day month, in nature. Everybody still with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, depending on if we go with a 29-day month or a 30-day month, we'll have 46 or 47 days, because we're told in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month. So that gives us 1 month consisting of 29 or 30 days, plus 17 more days, right? Everybody with me? All right, so that's either 46 or 47 days. All right? Then in Genesis 7:12, we're told, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. So, here's another 40 days. So we have 40 plus 46 or 47 days, which gives us a total of 86 or 87 days. Amen?
Amen.
All right, Genesis 7:24. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So hereby we learned that the waters prevailed upon the earth for another 150 days. Therefore, if we take 150 plus 86 or 87 equals 236 or 237 days. Everybody still with me?
Yep.
All right, Genesis 8:3. And the waters returned from off the earth continually and abated after the end of 150 days. So, it took 150 days for them to come on the earth, and it took 150 days for them to come off the earth. Everybody with me? All right, so here we learned that it took another 150 days for the water to abate. So if we take 150 plus our 236 or 37 days, we get a total of 386 or 387 days from day 1 of the 600th year of Noah to the day of the 601st year of Noah. Hence, all we have to do now is figure out how long that year was, is to subtract 1, because the previous year actually ended with the day prior to the first day of the 601st year of Noah. Everybody still with me? You know, so if we take 386 or 387 minus 1, it gives us 385 or 386 days within that particular year. Now, that's a lot of days in a year, is it not? There is no way in nature that one can get a 386-day year with any of the yearly calendars. Not with the solar lunar calendar, not with the lunar calendar, and not with just the solar calendar. The solar calendar will give you 364 days. The lunar calendar will give you 354 days, or 365 days, depending on you add up the 0.25 at the end. You know, but it'll either be 364, 365 days, or 354 days at the minimum. You know, with a lunar calendar. Okay, there's no way that one can get a 386-day year with those two calendars. There's only one way that you can get a 385-day year, and that's with a solar lunar calendar, the combo, which is the type of calendar that the Yahudim use. They use a solar lunar calendar. That is the only way that you can get a 385-day year, and that's because during this cycle, which is called the Metonic cycle, which is a 19-year cycle, you know, there's what they call an intercalation, because a lunar solar calendar consists of the lunar year, which is 354 days, you know, and then you have the solar year, which is 365 days, leaving you in excess of approximately 11 days. So if you got 11 days left over, then every 2 to 3 years, you're going to have an extra month, and that's what they call an intercalation. Okay? So now, the lunar solar calendar operates within this 19-year cycle called the Metonic cycle. And this 19-year cycle has 6-year length types, consisting of 3 12-month length types, and which is in those 3 12-month year lengths, are either 353, 354, or 350.5 days within a 12-month cycle. And then it also has 3 13-month years within the cycle. And these was what we call intercalation. And these 3 13-month cycles can have either 383, or 384, or 385 days. And here it is. When we count these days, we come up with 385 or 386 days for this year that Noah was on the ark. And seeing that there's no way we can get a 386-day year, then we have to go with the 385, thereby making the first month a 29-day month. So that gives us 385 days, which points to the year had to be a lunar solar year with an intercalation. That is a 13-month year. Okay. I was always taught to double check my math. So we're not gonna just roll with that. We're gonna double check it. And this is only Yah because there is sufficient information here for us to double check. So we're gonna look at it in another way. We're told in Genesis 7:7, it says, and Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Genesis 7:10-12, and it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month. The same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, so hereby we learned that we have 7 days prior to the rain, with the rain starting in the 2nd month on the 17th day, thereby giving us 47 days. Everybody see that? We have 7 days prior to the rain, and then we have rain for 40 days and 40 nights. 40 plus 7, 47, right? All right. Now, Genesis 7:24 tells us, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So we have 47 plus 150 equal 197 days. That's the 7 days prior to the rain, 40 days, 40 nights of rain, and then 150 days, 197 days. Everybody still with me? Genesis 8:4. It teaches us, and the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. All right, now this is exactly 150 days after it began to rain, hence the waters ceased to prevail. This was the 150 days in which the waters prevailed. Now, this is when it ceases to prevail. And then we're told in verse 5, it says, and the waters decreased continually until the 10th month, and the 10th month on the 1st day of the month were the tops of the mountains seen. So, approximately 3 months later, which is approximately 90 days, and but it's not quite 3 months. It's 17 days short of 3 months because we're told it's the 7th month on the 17th day. So we have to subtract that 17 days. So if we go with a month being 30 days, that's 90. 90 minus 17 leaves us 73 days. Everybody still with me? All right, so we have 73 plus the previous 197 days gives us 270 days. Then Genesis 8:6 tells us, and it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. So now we have an additional 40 days. So we take 270 plus 40 equals 310 days. So now we're at 310 days, all right? Now, Genesis 8:7-13 says, and he sent forth a raven, which, can my next reader read Genesis 8:7-13?
And he sent forth a raven which went forth and to and fro, until the waters were dried up from off the earth. Also he sent forth a dove from him, to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her feet, and she returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her, and pulled her in unto him into the ark. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again he set forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came in unto him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, and the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and he looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry.
Okay. Now, the key to this is given right here in verse 10, where it says yet another 7 days. Same thing we see in verse 12. This teaches us that he was sending the birds out in 7-day increments. After the 40 days, it says he sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro. So he sent him on out. 7 days later, he sent forth a dove from, to see if the waters were abated off of the face of the ground. And so here, it says the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark. So it says he stayed yet another 7 days, and he sent forth a dove out of the ark. So we're at 21 days now, and the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth an olive leaf was plucked off, and he said another 7 days and sent forth the dove, which returned not to him again. This is a total of 28 days, 4 sets of 7. And which landed right on the first day of the year, of the new year. It said it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth. So this would have been New Year's Day. So we have 310 days plus 28 days, which gives us 338 days. Now, verses 14 through 19, my next reader, please.
And in the second month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth dried. And Elohim spoke unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee, of all flesh, both of fowl and of cattle, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful, and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went forth, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth, after their kinds, went forth out of the ark.
Okay. Now, here in verse 14, we're told, and in the second month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth dry. Okay, so here it is, what Scripture is painting us a picture of, is the water was abated off of the earth on the first day of the year. There was no water on the face of the ground, but the ground was still wet. It wasn't completely dry. In the second month, on the 27th day of the month, was the earth completely dry. And this is when Elohim, spoke to Noah, saying, "Go forth out of the ark." Okay. Now, we stopped off at 338 days. That was at the beginning of the new year, right? Mm-hmm. So now we have to add this extra time to the point to where they came off the ark, which is the second month and the 27th day, which gives us an additional 57 days, 30 plus 27. Amen? So 30 plus 27 is 57, so you have 338 days plus 57 days, leaves you with 395 days. Now, we're told in Genesis 7:11, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Okay, so to figure the length of the year, we must subtract the 10 extra days they spent on the ark, because they went in on the 17th day of the second month, and they came out on the 27th day of the second month. Everybody see that? So that's an additional 10 days. So if you take 395, you minus 10, what do you get? 385 days yet again. That year was a 385-day year. Hence, this is empirical evidence that the lunar solar calendar was the top calendar that was being kept during that time. But there's no way you can get 385 days within a year without it. It's impossible. All right. Pop quiz. All right, everybody had their thinking caps on. How long was Noah and his family on the ark? We got a 395 over here. We got a no. We have a 385. Sticking with 395.
Approximately a year.
we have approximately a year. Well, let's see what the answer is. 375. Okay, let's take a look.
388.
We got a 388. All right. So Genesis 7:7 tells us that Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same were all the fountains of the great deep broken up. Broken up, and the windows of heaven were open. So we see here that they was on the ark actually for 7 days before the rains began. And the rains didn't begin until the second month and the 17th day. Then we're told in Genesis 8:14 through 16, and in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, was the earth dried, and Elohim spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou and thy wife and thy sons and thy sons' wives with thee. So, the 17th day of Noah's 601st year would have made exactly 1 year from the time the rains began to descend upon the earth. All right? Now, from the above passages, we learned that Noah and his family went into the ark 7 days prior to the rains and came out the following year 10 days later than they went in. Hence, they were on the ark a year and 17 days. Now, we just learned that that year was 385 days in length. Now, if we add the extra 17 days, we'll get a total day spent on the ark of 385 plus 17, which gives us 402 days Noah and his family spent on the ark. That was a long time to be on a hot, funky ark with a bunch of animals, right? So, the answer is 402 days. Now, the 13th month long years within the Metonic cycle, in case you were wondering, are the 3rd, the 6th, the 8th, the 11th, the 14th, the 17th, and the 19th years of the cycle. We are currently in the 6th Metonic year of the cycle. And this is why we appear to be a month further down than a lot of other groups who don't use a lunar solar calendar or don't observe the heavenly signs. You know, you'll notice that, you know, they kept Pesach a month earlier than we did, approximately. This is the reason why. Because this Metanic cycle, you're going to have intercalations. They're inevitable, not inevitable, but inevitable, because you have 11 days left over from each year. So those 11 days are going to add up to an extra month approximately every 3 years. Okay? So that's why you see them occurring on the 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 19 years of the cycle. You know, Genesis 8:15 through 20 says, and Elohim spake unto Noah, saying, go forth of the ark, thou and thy wife, and thy sons wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee, of all flesh, both of fowl and of the cattle, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went forth, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, every beast, every creeping thing, every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth after their kinds went forth out of the ark. And Noah builded an altar unto Yahuwah, and took of every clean beast, of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And verse 21 and 22, and Yahuwah smelled a sweet Savior. And Yahuwah said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake. For the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I smite again anymore everything living as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest time, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. Now, here in verse 21, he says, I will not again curse the ground. I want you to know that this word curse is kalal, number 7043, meaning to be or cause to be light, to curse, to despise. You know, to properly understand this word, you have to properly understand the way that the Hebrews thought. You know, because oftentimes we try to understand this with our Western mindset, and it just don't carry forward. You know, how can, you know, to be light, you know, be as a curse? You know, it doesn't make sense to a Western mindset, but when you consider the Eastern understanding of this, you know, then you see where it falls into play. And instead, and to show you that Eastern mindset, I'm going to use another word instead of kalal. I'm going to use this like exact opposite. And that is kabod in the Hebrew. It's number 3513. And it's usually translated as honor. You know, such as we read in the Ten Commandments, honor thy mother and thy father, so that thy days may be lengthened upon the earth. Okay, this word honor is kabod in the Hebrew, number 3513, and it literally means to be heavy. So when Yah is telling you to honor your parents, he's telling you to cause them to be heavy. Makes sense now, doesn't it? Not really, huh? Okay, but where it comes into play is everything that was of value during their time was weighed. And much like now today, you know, you go to the supermarket, the more the stuff weigh, the more it's going to cost. Amen? When you go to the produce, you know, and you want some peaches, well, the more the peaches weigh, the more they're going to charge you for them. Amen? Yep. You know, so this is where the concept came from. And in all actuality, this is where the concept of your money comes from. You know, for U.S. dollar is a term of weight. It actually speaks to 375 point something fine grams of silver. Okay? That constituted $1. You can easily see it with the English monetary system, the pound, because we're used to using pounds, right? You know, but these are terms of weight. So when Yah was saying, honor your mother and father, honor your parents, he was saying, make them heavy in your sight. In other words, make them valuable. You know, so when he was talking about honor your parents, he was talking about, you know, let them be heavy. You know, now, just imagine something that you value. Let's say something like gold. Now, here it is, you got a sack full of gold. It's heavy as heck. But do you mind carrying it?
No, you don't mind.
You're on your way to the bank. You don't mind carrying it at all, do you? As heavy as it is, you struggling with it, but you having fun while you struggling with it. You don't mind struggling with that bag of gold, do you? You know, it's really, really heavy, but you really, really happy that it's really, really heavy because you know it's worth a really, really, really large amount, right? Well, when he says honor your parents, he means to make them heavy like that bag of gold. Make them as valuable as that bag of gold. Even though it may be a rough time honoring them,
That's right.
they're supposed to be so valuable that you don't mind doing it.
That's right.
They're supposed to be so valuable that you even take pleasure in doing it.
That's right.
Amen? You know, so that's what it means to honor your parents. It's not just to say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. It's to make them valuable in your eyes. So valuable that you'll go through hard times in order to see them through.
That's right.
Just like you will go through hard times to get that bag of gold to the bank. You won't be complaining.
Nope.
Even though it's hard and rigorous, you smiling all the way. That's the same way it's supposed to be when you're honoring your parents. Okay, so the heavier it is, the more valuable it is. Now, let's consider this word kalal, which means to be or cause to be light. It's not valuable. The lighter it is, the less valuable it is. You know, so now rather than being honored, being disrespected, it's being lightly esteemed. You know, to be honored is to be highly respected, highly esteemed. So you're talking about something that's cursed, it's very lightly esteemed. It's very lowly respected. Now you can probably see how it can mean cursed. You know, it's not valuable, it's nothing. You know, it's kind of like that penny that you drop out your pocket and don't even bother to pick it up. You know, you just, you know, or you get the change back in at the store and you just leave it in the little bin. You know, don't even bother to grab it. Anybody done that besides me? Okay. Just want to make sure I wasn't by myself. You know, yeah. You know, so that's what it's speaking to. You know, kind of like that ant that's in the house that you just step on, you know, because you don't value it. It's very lightly esteemed. You know, that's kind of how Yah was looking at humanity then. He was like, well, I'm just going to destroy them all.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't care about them. I don't respect them. They're very lowly on my measuring stick. You know, so that's what he did. So, that's what kalal means. Okay? So he's talking about cursing the ground. Okay, and then in verse 8, Genesis 8:8, we read, it says, also he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the ground. Now, this word abated is kalal. You know, so he's speaking about the waters becoming less and less. You know, but he's also speaking about these waters as a curse. These waters was the curse. You know, so another way to translate this passage would could read, also he sent forth a dove from him to see if the accursed waters were from off the face of the ground. And the word occurs again in verse 11. In Genesis 8:11 it says, and the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. Again, this is Kalal. So, this could again be retranslated, you know, as such. And the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off, and Noah knew that the accursed waters were from off the earth. You know, so there was someone that was asking about, you know, this curse, and when Yah was saying, will I not again curse the ground, was he referring to Adam? So, you know, I would have to say no. Hence, when it speaks of cursing the ground, it isn't speaking of Adam. It's speaking about the curse of the waters that he had brought upon the earth during that time. So, I think I addressed everything. That's all I have for you today. Pray with a blessing.